of the Bar Association and distinguished representatives from the Supreme Court, Office of the Attorney General, senior officials from the Nepal Bar Association, Ministry of Law and Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, all protocol observed, because I don't want you to hold me accountable. I'm in front of a big, great group of lawyers, and I'm very worried that whatever I say, that I will be held accountable, that if I go outside the track. So all protocols observed, very good morning and namaste to you, and including all of you, the new cohort of privileged group of young Nepali lawyers who will be doing your responsibility vis-a-vis your fellow citizens in the years to come. So my name is Aishani. I am the resident representative of UNDP Nepal, and I don't speak. I look like Nepali, but I am not. I don't speak Nepali, so I had been translated, live translation of your deliberations while respected orators were giving their speeches. So I was looking at my telephone, not out of courtesy, but irresponsibility, but to get what is being said. So most of what previous speakers mentioned, including the speech that my colleague Tech prepared me, everything has been already mentioned. So therefore I'm going to improvise a little bit of what I would like to share with all of you on behalf of UNDP. Very, very privileged. I feel privileged and thankful for to be part of this program and to be present here, and that our joint program, this is not a UNDP program, it's first of all Nepal, Government of Nepal through Ministry of Law and Justice, with support of all the stakeholders, Bar Association, Supreme Court, Office of the Attorney General, and also provincial and local governments. That means the newly elected chief ministers and their provincial councils. So there are a lot of people behind who are helping and supporting this Access to Justice program with the support of, generous support of the Royal Norwegian government. The funding is coming from the Royal Norwegian government and UNDP, obviously, and we are accountable vis-a-vis the government of Nepal and the Norwegians, taxpayers, for this type of program. So I really would like to say that at the outset. So why UNDP is in the Access to Justice? So UNDP, someone reminded me again yesterday, it's the D is in the UNDP, the development program. So someone who would look at UNDP would ask, so you're supposed to do development, why are you doing justice? Or why are you doing human rights? Why are you in the parliament? Why are you in the elections? So there are a lot of different institutions that we are working. So UNDP, in Nepal, we are present since 1963. So it's been 6 decades of cooperation with Nepal, like in other parts of the world. With research, with experience now, with analytics, we see that poverty eradication, that is what we are fighting for, working for, supporting with. Poverty eradication cannot happen, or human development cannot happen, if we do not take into consideration justice and human rights and governance issues that we have to, as an enabler, that need to put the foundations so that people can benefit from whatever the programs, policies, strategies, budgets, laws, regulations that we put in place, so that they feel that their rights and their aspirations are fulfilled. So that is why UNDP in many countries, more than 50, 60 countries, are supporting access to justice programs as much as they do in elections, parliamentary support, human rights, federalism, decentralization, data, and so forth. So likewise, in Nepal as well, we think if the Nepalese, at least 5 million Nepalese as of 2019, according to the National Planning Commission, UNICEF and UNDP, who are living below the poverty line, meaning 200 rupees a day. If these people, that is before the pandemic, these 5 million people, if we want to do some little change in their lives, it is extremely important that they also have access to justice. And therefore, this program. We know also, and you are, I'm sure you already learned that, but it is my duty perhaps to remind ourselves when we look at the problems. I was in Sri Lanka a few months ago. So we all go to lawyers, right? We all need a justice system. 80% of us are, if we look into the last 2 years, that is World Justice Project or Forum that says if we take 2 years period, usually 80% of the population go to or need to go to lawyers, to seek services of lawyers, normally issue related to justice. So me, it was to give my power of attorney to my sister because I live out of the country. So there are issues related to the land, related to my bank accounts, related to the money or whatever that it is. I have to give the power of attorney. So I think I spent at least 5 days out of my 15 days holidays to go and discuss, understand the law and discuss with the lawyers and so forth. And I still could understand some of what it is being said. And we know that most of the people who seek justice, they can't understand. It's a different language. It's a different subject. It's a different specialty. So bringing it to a vulnerable vernacular conversation through which that we understand each other. UNDP already have a lot of jargons in its development topics, but law, it's something extremely, extremely sacred and extremely, if we go back to Greek and Roman times of where the orators came and then debate started, it was those people who had that knowledge and privilege groups those days. So today the world has changed. So I think that responsibility of using the privilege you have to detain that knowledge, the access to that knowledge, to be part of a peer group that has accumulated that knowledge, that bring that to the normal people, the society. I think it's an extremely complicated task, and you need special skills. You don't need only the law skills, which you can learn, books. I think some of the orators mentioned about it. You can read it, the civil code, the criminal code, the commerce, everything you can read in books. I think even the colleague who came from the cohort of trainees said that, Ms. Koirala, she said that the theory we know, but the practice, that you are in front of people. And that's a people skills, that's a special competence, that you cannot read and get it into your head and do that. You need to speak to your seniors. You need to speak to your peers. You need to really live it. And that is what is complicated. And that is not only in the law practice. It is also in our profession that we feel that 80% of our time we spend in these interactions, people interactions, to learn each other and to work in a group, work in a team, and to convey, convince, negotiate. Those are very special skills. So I see the program when I look at it. In addition to the substance, I saw that some of those skills are also incorporated into your program. And I really hope that this part, you will give more attention to it, because that is, for me, that is what is important. Also, if we look at the issues for which we go to lawyers, as I said, it's about the land, it's about the house, it's about the domestic violence, it's about consumer issues that you face. So it's a real basic day-to-day stuff, right? And that is again where UNDP put its specialty. It's about, so here it's about natural resources most of the time. Land, water, environment, the forest, these are natural resources. And they have very special laws, practices, knowledge, regulations, not only nationally, but also international conventions. Nepal has taken commitments to Paris Accord about climate change. It has taken commitments to Sendai Framework, which is about disaster risk reduction. It's about making sure that the impact of the disasters are reduced at the local level so that lives are not lost, the infrastructure are not lost, knowledge is accessible. So these are also issues that when we go to the different topics that you will have to deal with, floods or fires, forest fires, who is responsible? These are different types of knowledge. And that means that you will have to access to different ministries who detain this kind of knowledge, information, and about international commitments that Nepal is party to, other than the 7 human rights conventions and all kinds of treaty bodies, special rapporteurs. Those things I think you are it's easy, right? It's in your topic. But in the other parts, climate change, forest, disaster risk reduction, energy issues, so these are a little bit specialized issues. And we feel that your profession has a space over there, and we find very difficult to find people, even in our own jobs, to the UNDP's work, for example, to get access to the lawyers who have these types of knowledge and specialty. So this is, I think, what is important. And still, I read yesterday, while I'm looking, in the world, there are about 1.4 billion people right now. 1.4 billion people without remedies to access to justice in the world. So that's huge amount. So this is why they go to the informal dispute resolution mechanisms. And this is why also UNDP, through this same project, working with the judicial committees, working with the deputy mayors and mayors to understand their role and to see what is it that we could meaningfully bring to their skill sets. So I hope that you will take advantage of this 3 months and you will join the 250 plus other trainees like you, before you, who got this opportunity, that you will be attentive to data, to the information, the data, quite complicated, the trust, as I said, the trust building, the special skills, the informal mechanisms that you know that most of the people can only afford to go to the informal mechanisms. So the importance of informal mechanisms side by side the formal mechanisms, to make sure that Ministry of Law and Justice, the Attorney General's Office and Supreme Court and other ministries, the government, Nepali government, continue to invest in the law and justice sector, which is also part of the new budget, and bring it to not only to Kathmandu. I heard you were mentioning the lady that who would not wanting to go out of Kathmandu, but it is where Humla, Jumla, Dailek, this is where we meet, Namche, this is Doti, Lomantong. I've been to all these places, and this is where, unfortunately, that you young people, if you don't go, who else will go? So I think it's very important, because when you get married, you get children, you have to handle too many domestic issues, and you won't be able to get there as easy as the others would do. So as you are young, take that challenge. Choose the remotest village that you would like to go and learn and service, and you will see that would be the best part of your life. Ultimately, after 30, 40 years after, when you look back, you will see that is where you learned. And that is the most rewarding experience that you have. And that is because of that kind of decisions that probably I also took 30, 40 years ago, that I am here in front of Nepal, a cohort of young lawyers speaking. Because if I said I'm going to stay in my little village or in my little town, and so I would not have gone anywhere. So I think that's very important to basically invest and take that courageous decisions to get out of Kathmandu and continue to partner with, this is my last point, to work with the UN system, because United Nations or UNDP, which is the largest UN entity working on development, we are a multilateral organization, so you know about United Nations, I'm sure. We are not an NGO, we are not an international NGO, we are an intergovernmental, that means Nepal is part of our board, Nepal is part of a member state, so UNDP, when UNDP speaks on behalf of also Nepal, because you are part of the governing body of the system. So UNDP and UN system with the Sustainable Development Goals, which is basically the blueprint right now until 2030, since 2015, that we are trying to do our work in countries. And as you know, in the Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17 of them. If you didn't hear about them, there is one special, Sustainable Development Goal number 16. So that is about peace, justice, and strong institutions, specifically on SDG number 16. And SDG number 16 has 12 targets and 24 indicators. So I hope you will go and read that. So UNDP's mandate, UNDP's aspiration is to support the countries. I mean, I'm taking this special SDG because of the cohort that is in front of me. Out of this SDG 16, we are custodian. UNDP is custodian for four targets. And we really need your help in terms of keeping that custodianship with UNDP and to support the countries to monitor and report back to the larger international community how the countries are faring. So that is about justice system, accessing justice services. That is about public service, the quality, the inclusivity, the representativity, the participation of the public service systems. So I hope during your 3 days plus time, you will be able also to look at that international partnership, international cooperation, and the part that comes to you as young lawyers going to the society. What is also your role to help us, the UN system present in the country, but also the larger UN system, to bring the knowledge, data, and your experience to other countries, because Nepal has a quite strong system in place. So to bring it to the other countries, exchange the knowledge with other countries, because that is something that UNDP also can help in countries to connect with. With these few words, and also expecting perhaps tech to see how we could immerse a couple of interns even within the UN system for a couple of days as we move, for them to see how the system is working during the cohorts, and also expecting to work more closely with the Supreme Court and the Attorney General's office as we did in the past, and expecting to enlarge our cooperation with the Nepal Bar Association, and thanking Ministry of Law and Justice and the Norwegian government, and counting on the 23 ladies here, because that is a huge challenge in front of you. The girls, very few we have, and we need ladies, more ladies. You see, I'm all alone with, I think she's even gone. So it's very difficult, right? You feel really minority when you are in this kind of a platform. So please don't give up. Just fight for your rights and give the space for other ladies who are really suffering from access to justice. Thank you so much.